Hello all! So I'm still in my glasses. Glare from these things is starting to drive me crazy, but I'm here with another book for you guys. And that book in question is The Archived by Victoria Schwab. I know I'd already mentioned that I was going to be reading this, and I did. Oh my goodness, this book. How had I not discovered Victoria Schwab until so the basic premise of this book is that when you die, your memories form a copy of you that's called a history. And your history, capital H, is stored in the archive, which is a kind of library slash vault, which has to essentially put people's histories on shelves and keep them in locked drawers. And these are guarded over by librarians. However, sometimes histories will escape. And they'll escape into this netherworld existing place between our world and the archive known as the Narrows. And it's up to keepers to get rogue histories and bring them back to the library. Essentially bring them to the returns door. It's actually called the returns door. I love it. Our protagonist of the story is a young keeper by the name of Mackenzie Bishop. She's a teenage girl who has just moved with her mother and her father to this old former hotel known as the Coronado in the wake of her younger brother's death from a hit and run. So she and her family are kind of going through definitely one of the stages of grieving, and they've just sort of picked up, left, moved to a completely new location and are trying to start over. Mackenzie has to keep her life as a keeper a secret from her parents because they can never really know the truth or about the existence of the archive. She was trained by her grandfather, whom she calls Da, who died, I'm assuming it's a couple years ago from when this story begins. What's really great is we get to see the relationship between Mackenzie and her grandfather via these second-person interjection flashbacks that occur throughout the book. They're actually written in a different typeface, so you always know when it's happening, besides the fact that the person changes from third omniscient to second person. It's a really, really clever literary device, and I love the way it's used in here. It gives us more insight into Mackenzie's character. She ends up meeting a young boy named Wesley, who is also a keeper, and together they sort of end up quasi-pairing up in order to patrol the Narrows and deal with this sudden overflow of histories that have been appearing in and out of the Coronado. In the library, her favorite librarian of sorts is a man by the name of Roland, from whom she learns that something's going on. People are editing histories. They're deleting their endings. They're sort of setting them loose on purpose, and the question is always who's doing it and why. So you have Mackenzie and Roland trying to figure out what's going on. Mackenzie and her family in a whole new location, grieving over the loss of her, like 10-year-old brother. Mackenzie learning to trust Wesley and sort of open up a little to him and to other people because she's so closed off because of her experience as a keeper and dealing with the death of her brother. And then there's Owen, the history who doesn't behave like a history in the Narrows, and whom she realizes might be part of the key of discovering what's going on with the Coronado, which has its own past that she's trying to figure out. Basically, a lot of things are going on in this story. I'll admit, when I was going through it, I was worried I was going to get a book that was just going to be set up for a second book. In come my relief when this book ends beautifully. It ties everything up, and it just manages to finish. Like, really finish, and has a great ending, too. It kept me guessing the whole way. Not only that, it left itself open just enough to have a sequel. Not in any way like, oh, there's a plot point that wasn't tied up, but more like, no, yeah, you could give me more adventures in here. Some of the best stuff in here is not only the characters, but the world building and the writing. Victoria Schwab, as I said, she's an incredibly mature writer. Her use of those clever literary devices to toggle between time periods is just one small example of that, but the world building is the best part. Anytime you're writing a novel with fantastical or paranormal elements, you have to build your world. The best example I can give is that J.K. Rowling, when she knew there was going to be magic in the Harry Potter series, the very first thing she did was decide what magic could not do. Because It's from those core things that you build your world and set your internal world rules. In The Archived, Victoria Schwab sets those rules and maintains them beautifully. This is some of the most creative stuff I have seen in young adult literature. It didn't feel like anything else I'd ever read out of this genre, or even just in general. Victoria Schwab has just sort of blown my mind. I'm pleased to have discovered a new writer who might get up there into my favorites. But that's all from me tonight, you guys, and so until next time, cheers.